This episode is brought to you by Flex Dealer.
Too many people are making rash decisions to throw away one of the most important parts of their overall plan. And really what they should be doing is paying attention to the changes that Google has made, as all these AI things have happened.
Hey gang, on this episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast, we welcome back Dave Spannhake from Reunion Marketing. We're going to be talking about Google and the death of it. Stay tuned. Dave, my man. So let's just get right in. We got to chop this up. You had mentioned you had seen some commentary about, the way things are going with AI and Google. People are starting to do what people do. I mean, we saw this with the emergence of AI. We saw this with the, blockchain and the metaverse, and everyone jumped to all these conclusions about what the implication would be. And now here we are, and people are saying, could all of this AI and these advancements in AI be the death of Google? What's your take?
Well, like you said, we've heard that before. I think that, and that's kind of funny. I lost a bet. It was a big bet too. I don't even know if I should tell you how much I bet on it, but I bet that we were going to be down to less than 5 radio stations in the Raleigh market within 10 years. And this is 11 years ago. And I lost that bet. There's still a lot of them. I mean, people are not that quick to change a lot of their behaviors and habits. So
first of all, who did you lose this bet to? Was it one of the inner sanctum? Was it Chad? Was it?
No, it wasn't a Reunion guy. It was someone back when we were working at Leith Auto, and we redirected all of our money really into, or not all of it, but a lot of it into focusing on digital and search and the growing OTT market and just the changing consumer behavior, and so we did a lot of good things with it. But I made the wrong bet. I mean, there's still plenty of radio stations out there, even hard to believe for some. But
I feel like if you reveal how much you lost, I will reveal my AI generated.
Oh yeah, that's good. No, it was a big
now
bet.
Everybody's wondering what's Cirillo talking about.
The biggest bet I've lost, I think. But I really, I think it's real easy to get on the hype train that everything's going to change right away. That people are just going to just completely change their behavior. But it's usually those that are on the forefront, those early adopters that are saying this. Is because they're embracing it. And I mean, things like ChatGPT. I mean, I use that 15, 20 times a day. We use a lot of AI for a lot of the stuff that we do, and it's incredibly impactful. But if you're looking at what the market's doing, I mean, Google still 88% of the overall market. I mean, I think it's something like 250 searches a week or something. I think I was reading. What was that? I actually had it pulled up here. It was.
That's the average person does 250 searches a week.
250 searches a month versus ChatGPT. The average person's 13.5, Perplexity 16.5. So it's, just looking at what's actually happening. I mean, certainly, if I was Google, I'd be concerned about the long term. Maybe make some 10-year bets, but I think too many people I think are making rash decisions to throw away one of the most important parts of their overall plan. And really what they should be doing is paying attention to the changes that Google has made, as all these AI things have happened. And I think that's the bigger story is Google's changed a lot. And I think people don't quite recognize just how much Google's changed. And this is where you can create differentiation and grow your market share and where people are still spending a whole lot of time.
Yeah. Do you think, because this is what happens. We don't pay attention until something big or iconic or memorable happens. And then we all start paying attention thinking that shift was the beginning of it all. Like all of these companies just figured it out. Here's where I'm going with this. You remember, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but when Google finally came out and said, okay, like here's the top 3 organic ranking factors. And it was, mobile, content, and rank brain. And everyone was like, just let's not talk about rank brain because that sounds scary. I mean, this is going back, a decade? I don't know, maybe just shy of a decade. Yeah. And if people like actually took the time to go and see what rank brain is, they would realize that Google was already working on complex artificial intelligence factors into their algorithm, but nobody was paying attention until search generative experience started taking over the top portion of SERP. So, I mean, from your vantage point, I mean, like, is it one of those things where it's all the hype and the rage now, but it'll probably like die down? Or do we really need to be shifting the way we think about how Google's especially leaning into AI? And if so, what should we be doing as dealerships or as an industry to lean into that with them?
I think it starts with understanding what it is your customers are doing, I think, first and foremost. And so Google is losing a little bit of market share. Certainly, they're below 50% for the first time in however long, but they're still obviously the giant gorilla. And those that are leaving, and it's a small amount compared to how many are still there using it on the regular. Again, 88% of the market. It's not the SEO is dead, giant story that we saw 10 years ago. It's not the Wall Street Journal story that, it's Google is the Titanic about to hit the iceberg. I mean, that's right. That's not going to happen. But why people are leaving Google is, I think the number one reasons, cited is that they don't trust the results. And so, I mean, even this past year, Google's made some algorithm updates to declutter itself from how AI has changed in the content game. I mean, AI has changed dramatically. Heck, we subscribe to leveraging AI and using it appropriately. And it's like the hottest job right now is prompt engineer in that environment, right? I mean, that's a job that wouldn't even exist a few years ago, but Google's going to have put all their focus, and they have been, on delivering results that match the expectations of the searcher. That's what, if you're doing that with whatever you're doing, whether it's SEO or, the right ads, going to the right landing pages or whatever, if you're delivering content that matches what your customers are wanting, then you're going to win all the time. I mean, that's been the basic SEO and just, marketing concept forever. You got customers that want one thing, and you have these things to sell, and you just want to connect the dots. And I think that's what it boils down to. But what's changed and how to adapt to that change and stay ahead of others in the change. I think that's really where we're falling behind as an industry, is that Google has changed a lot and taken away a lot from its advertisers. And those that are understanding what that situation's about and how, ultimately Google's making a whole lot more money by doing things a whole lot differently, getting around those environments and getting more bang for your buck and showing up and creating more complexities external to Google. I think that's actually the biggest conversation right now, because they still are 88% market share in that area. And people are still using them with, near the all-time highs that they always have.
Do you think there's an element here where those of us that are early adopters, I'll, refer to us like that, because those of us that like new and emerging things and like to play around and click buttons and do all the things, do you think there's an element at play here where AI is the big conversation for us because we're in it every day and we can see all of its potential and we're following the news? Where that may not be the case for quite some time for a lot of, like you said, just customers that are doing research online, who are looking for a vehicle, who are in shopping activity. I think of my wife. Like, my wife's not 40 yet, but is like an 86-year-old trapped in a 39-year-old's body, right? Like, she could care less about learning how to set up voice assistant and play with GPT, and like, she just doesn't care. And I don't see a time in my life or hers where that flips. And I can't help but wonder, well, what is the ratio here of people who are more like her, who will just never, who 30 years from now will maybe have adopted AI tools, but use them the way most people use Google today, like barely scratching the surface? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we're sitting here in the holidays where we get to be around a whole lot of family and a whole lot of different people that maybe we don't see all the time. And, when you have conversations with all sorts of different folks across all sorts of different demographics and age groups and all those kind of things, you see that it's not nearly as widely adopted yet as what it feels like to us who are living and breathing it every day. I mean, it's a constant conversation here at Reunion and leveraging ways to make it better and more effective and all those kind of things. I think it's changing the landscape enough that it's scary. And so, I mean, it's, the change is always, I mean, change is constant in digital marketing. So, I mean, leaning into it and being at the forefront of it while still understanding the environment is probably the most important thing to do right now in terms of getting the most for your investment into marketing and the world that we live in. But it's still not nearly as widely used outside of, what Google's using AI for. And so, I mean, what are they using it for? Where you're showing up, it's when people want to know some basic answers, they're going to get them real fast. I mean, these are not people who are, trying to buy cars. They're not trying to find dealerships to go to and where the nearest dealership is. I mean, we're getting, people are still, when they're in market looking to buy things, they're still, you still want to be doing your SEO and SEM, where you're not going to show up and you're going to lose market share significantly. And so it actually scares me a little bit for, the dealers out there that are ready to just dump, two of the most low funnel things that are the last decision made before a customer comes to a dealership. I mean, it's I think just as scary as someone who isn't doing the other advertising mechanisms that help lead to the stimulus part of the advertising that leads to those intent searches. But just because change is at the forefront, doesn't mean you need to go all in on that when the vast majority of folks are not in that early adopter stage. And the vast majority of the search results that have that SGE experience are not ones that are as bottom of the funnel ROI producing as what so exists. And so I think it's just a matter of, recognizing how Google's doing things differently and staying in front of it. Frankly, where I get on my soapbox the most is, behind the scenes, Google's done a whole lot of things right now that are costing dealers a lot more money because the focus is elsewhere and on AI and SGE and that changing experience, changing environment across the results. But, paid search costs a lot more, the close variance environment where Google is, teeing you up to show up in way more searches and really be able to spend a whole lot more money and cost you a whole lot more money by delivering you into results that are not what you're even going after. And then the amount dealers are spending more on that. And then, the search results and the cost for every search you're doing is going up that much more. I think because dealers are not doing the same level of, I think we're trusting the algorithm too much as opposed to digging in and seeing, okay, why are we spending 20, 30, 40% more on search now for the same results when you really shouldn't have to? It's really easy to hide a lot of that stuff, because people are not digging in as much because there's a lot of shiny objects around right now. I mean, a lot of neat things out there. But this is still a basic, essential part of an overall strategy. And I think that's my biggest warning now is people are still using it and then they're still driving people to your dealership, but you're spending a lot more for it. And there's a reason.
Right. Hey, does your marketing agency suck? Listen, before we hop back into this episode, I know you know me as the host of the Dealer Playbook, but did you also know that I'm the CEO of Flex Dealer, an agency that's helping dealers capture better quality leads from local SEO and hyper-targeted ads that convert? So if you want to sell more cars and finally have a partner that's in it with you that doesn't suck, visit flexdealer.com. Let's hop back into this episode. It especially underscores for me what you're saying here. How often Google strongly recommends changes that you make to your campaigns. And you're like, based on what? And then, the scary thought for me is that there is somebody out there that's just clicking accept, and they're just applying all of these things, not realizing that Google will gladly take all of your money.
Yeah.
There's no want to do the best thing for you. They are in the business of do the best thing for them. And that kind of, for me, emphasizes the importance of, yes, AI, you used the word augment earlier. Yes, AI to augment certain things, maybe speed up things or help, create processes or workflows, but really the importance of having human touch and human intervention and cross-checking and looking for errors and mitigating errors, I think is going to be extremely important in the near future. And then, I think about those listening and saying, okay, well, what can I do to future proof? And you said it perfectly. It's like, well, yes, start playing around and adopting some of these things, but don't go all in just yet. Have a more balanced approach. You bring up SEO, and this debate obviously is always like, is SEO dying? And I would argue, and I guess as my final question to you, I would argue that it actually makes SEO related activities more valuable, especially if you look like I'm playing around with Grok on X, which is actually really neat.
Yeah.
But every time I do a search on Grok, it shows like 15 different websites that it pulled information from. And I think, well, if I'm positioned as a local business and it's definitely pulling live data, my SEO efforts now, I'm not just pandering to Google, but I'm actually setting myself up to be the database with which these platforms, even SGE, can use me as the resource. What's your take?
Well, it's funny because the buzz is all AI, and rightfully so, because there's a lot to do with it. And then I remember it wasn't that long ago that the big buzz phrase was content is king. Right now you can create way more content that is relevant and helpful and valuable. Leveraging a database, using prompt engineers, making sure that it's not spam content, because Google is doing everything they can to get rid of that. But because of this new environment where you have this technology, you can create that. And so I think, what a lot of dealers don't understand is that SEO right now can get you a whole lot more traffic than ever before for, really the same kind of investment that you used to spend, because you can do so much more and create so much more that is helpful to the customer or the future customer coming to your store. So I think a lot of people now, I think I try to understand the landscape. Where in your market and your AOR are you not showing up, and how are people searching for things? If you go to Search Console or Google Ads, and you can see, in any market, millions of different queries that you might be able to have some kind of penetration into. And now you can do that more than ever because of this environment. And who is doing it the most, and it's kind of goes back to the paid side too, is the biggest competitor for dealers actually, in a funny way, it's actually the third-party sites. And that's a vendor that you partner with. And there's, I used to have an $8 million budget back when I was at Leaf Auto before starting Reunion, years ago. And we spent a ton of money there. I think it's still the number one expense is these third-party sites, but they show up everywhere for all the different make model searches, because they have a page for everything, every year, make model, in every city in the area, for every trim package. They have content that's relevant to the searcher. And as people get maybe a little bit more long tail, like we expected voice search to do with AI, I think we're going to see that creating more content at scale is going to be the answer to be able to show up more. And it's really funny because we're big data junkies over here. Outside of being a little bit frustrated that we're also competing with third parties and the VLAs, using our own investment in showcasing our inventory on those third-party sites, we shouldn't have to compete with them. And I would recommend to every dealership listening to ask your third-party providers to not put your own inventory in the auction against you and the VLAs. And then sometimes the third parties will listen, and sometimes they don't. But also recognizing that your inventory on those sites is your biggest competition organically. And when you start recognizing why that is, dealers have a huge opportunity to compete for those areas. They just don't realize, I think, where to start often. And that data is so much more robust and available, and dealers are so much more capable now to compete in that area, that we're having fun watching people, significantly grow. And that's because they're leveraging AI to do the content is king thing that we used to talk about, wanting to have 10 years ago, but it's now possible, even though, it's the Titanic, according to some. And I think that's, just recognizing where we are is recognizing where the opportunities are, where your customers, and just meet them there. That's marketing 101 from way back when. What are your customers doing? What do they want? And give it to them. That's how you.
It just makes all the sense in the world. When you approach it from that angle, it's like, wait a minute, actually things may not be moving as fast as we thought, because all of the core principles of marketing still stand and hold water today. Weird pun, since we're just talking about the Titanic, but it's also like, I think the last thing I'm thinking about as you're saying all of this is, And I don't know if it's the Italian in me or like what, but I'm like, what a perfect mafia play. We're going to take everyone's money. Then we're going to put it into a big pot. And then we're going to compete against you with your money and your vehicles. It's like the most brilliant scheme of a business model when you really think about it. And then you're like, how come I don't show up? And it's like, well, maybe you would have a fighting chance if you didn't just give 20,000 of your dollars in addition to probably the 20,000 more dollars that you're spending to compete against yourself.
Yep.
Oh boy, that could be a whole other episode. Let's
we could go on and on about
Pandora's
that.
box.
Yep. There's a lot of ways that dealers are spending way more money than they need to. I mean, if you get into data and other things, it's a whole other episode too. But I mean, the amount of money that vendors have to pay to get access to data that dealerships should be owning themselves, and so dealers end up being the one who pays for all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ways in which dealers are having to pay for a cost that they shouldn't have to. They're paying for their own data, their own inventory. The louder we can get about that, the more we can help them out.
This is why I appreciate you so much. I mean, not a lot of people probably know this, but like from an agency perspective, you and I technically compete, but I feel that I don't feel the way I think the faux pas in our industry is about that. I actually have such respect and admiration for what you guys are doing.
I love catching up with you. It's always funny. It's always going to be a good conversation when you and I get
because I mean, there are many who compete, and then there are the few, I would say, of us who are genuinely, I believe, are advocates for the dealer body, because we realize that no matter how many different ways we try and slice the pie, the dealer somehow still loses. And I love that you are advocating for it. I love that we can have conversations like this and say, no, there are more efficient, better ways for us or the dealer or whoever is managing the money to be better stewards of the money, so that it's not diluted, so that it's not wasted, so that you're getting the most from your investments. And so I appreciate that about you. How can those, as we wind down, how can those listening and watching get in touch with you?
Yeah, just reach out to me. Email's always real easy. Dave@reunionmarketing.com. Hit me up. I mean, check me out on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there too, and love staying abreast of what's going on in the industry. So, yeah, always love to chat.
Love it, man. Thank you so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook Podcast.
Hey, thanks so much. Always great being on. Good to see you as always.
Boom. Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.